And action.
So Pope Leo just had some cinema movie people out at the Vatican to talk about the importance of movies and art.
He did.
He did.
That's why I brought the props. Because we're talking about cinema and film and the fact that Pope Leo sees this as an important part of human experience. I so love it. What are your takeaways? What do you think?
Well, I think he's right. I think we see a decline in theaters. Like there's a theater right by my house that just closed and now it's a Planet Fitness. And I think the physical of even going to the movies is escaping us. Mm-hmm. And there's a loss. It's becoming a lost art. Especially since COVID, when we got pretty comfortable being at home and watching everything on Netflix or whatever our streaming service is. Our couch is pretty comfortable. We can stop and start when we want. The movie going has lessened significantly. And even in this letter, the Holy Father, it's only, by the way, listeners, viewers, it's like 1 page, 2 sides. It's short. You should be able to read it. Cultural facilities such as cinemas and theaters are the beating hearts of our communities because they contribute to making them more human. I think it's a wonderful line. When I was growing up, we had Parma Theater on Ridge Road, which was 5 blocks north of where I lived. And we had Parmatown Mall, which had a theater there. Yeah. And neither one exists anymore. I was thinking of some that still do. The Cedar Lee in Cleveland Heights plays awesome films and foreign films. That's where we debuted Wildcat a couple of years ago, the Flannery O'Connor film. The Capitol Theater in Gordon Square, the Apollo Theater in Oberlin. And I was talking to Mary before the show. In D.C., just north of the city in Silver Springs is the AFI Theater where they play all the foreign films. And it's those theater houses matter to people. Yeah. Whenever I hear of a movie or something we'd like to see and it is in the theater, I do make an effort to go because even Pope Leo recognizes that there is something about crossing the threshold and physically going into a darkened theater. It's like a little retreat from the busyness of the world to self-reflect, hopefully with what's being presented in the movie, in the video, that is causing you a time of self-reflection and to learn more about the human experience. Yeah, you get in a different physical space and it darkens and then the screen is huge. It's not your little, the back of a seat of an airplane, but you're sitting in a theater and taking in something that hopefully makes you a better human being because you're watching it. And he was meeting with these directors because he knows how important film is as an art and should be, and wanted to encourage these filmmakers to make great films that help humanity be who we are. Yeah. Yeah. He even encourages not to shy away from exposing the wounds of the world. Yeah. He has a great line. Where is it? Art must not shy away from the mystery of frailty. It must engage with it and know how to remain before it. And isn't that true in real life? When you come across someone who's suffering or hurting or pouring out his or her heart, the most adequate response is to first sit and just take it in and not try to be thinking in your head what you're going to say next, but just hear the story, take in the narrative. And that's hard to do because we're living in a culture where you got to respond really quickly all the time. But a good film will put on display human action in such a way where you'll see yourself in there. Yeah. I always know if it's a good movie, if it can get me to cry. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. Well, this letter reminded me of the letter that Pope Francis wrote in July of 2024 when he talked about the importance of reading good fiction, like literature. And listen how these are so similar. So this is Pope Francis now. Literature thus has to do, in one way or another, with our deepest desires in this life. On a profound level, literature engages our concrete existence with its innate tensions, desires, and meaningful experiences. And then a little later on, he says, speaking to Maria Wancata, in weeping for the fate of their characters,
We are essentially weeping for ourselves, for our own emptiness, shortcomings, and loneliness. So a good book, a good novel, or a good film will get us so in touch with the human experience that we're seeing ourselves in these characters. Mm-hmm. And it allows us to be empathetic and also to understand experiences that maybe if we didn't read a book or watch a film, we'd never know. Maybe it's something that happened halfway across the world or in a neighborhood that's way different from ours or in a culture that's way different from ours. But there's common human themes that are played out. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just making me think of books I read as a teenager, movies I saw as a teenager that like touched my heart in some way that I don't think I even really knew why, but they did.
Yeah. And as you get older, then you start to pay more attention and say, wait, why did that affect me? Mm-hmm. So here's Pope Leo now. One of cinema's most valuable contributions is helping audiences consider their own lives, look at the complexity of their experiences with new eyes, and examine the world as if for the first time. In doing so, they rediscover a portion of hope that is essential for humanity to live to the fullest. And this is the Pope now. I find comfort in the thought that cinema is not just moving pictures, it sets hope in motion.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty great.
Yeah. So in 6th grade, we read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chronicles of Narnia. And we just read it together as a class. And then I forget how many years later the movie was made, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I love that movie. Yeah. It wasn't until, I don't know, a few years ago that I learned like it was about Christ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But as a little kid, I didn't know that.
That's cool.
When Aslan dies, like I cried so much at that.
I am embarrassed to say I've never read it, but I know of C.S. Lewis. I also know of Tolkien, and I've heard people say they read the Lord of the Rings, and then it was only later on they realized what kind of work he was doing there in terms of the allegory.
Yeah.
I listened to Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska when it came out, like in the early 80s, maybe 83. And I knew Born to Run, and I knew Hungry Heart, and some of these other pop songs. And Nebraska, to me, as a 7-year-old or whatever age I was, I remember buying the cassette at Gold Circle for like $3.99 or $4.99, and it was cheap compared to the other records, and that's what I had money for with my allowance. And I didn't like it. And it wasn't until I was 18 and in college, like my freshman year of college, that I listened to that one again. It's his best songwriting, but I wasn't ready to understand it at that age, and I didn't like it. So that's the thing too. A lot of times I think what we like when we're young, we just kind of stick with because it's comforting. And sometimes taking a risk or having a friend to say, have you done this? Or have you seen this show? Or have you gone to the Cleveland Orchestra? Or have you gone to have this cultural experience? A lot of times they get us out of our comfort zone. They stretch us. And maybe at first you're like, I don't know. But then you're like, oh man. So can I give an example?
Yeah.
Before I forget. So I run this program. It's a ministry really, Tole Lege in the summers at Bormeo. And we have boys and girls, rising seniors. So they're mostly 17, 18 years old. And they study philosophy, theology, culture, liturgy. And they live at the seminary the whole week. And usually the second or third night that they're there, we watch a film. And we get their parents to sign off. They're all films that Bishop Barron has reviewed. Shawshank Redemption, Gran Torino, Slumdog Millionaire. And for many of these young people, they've never watched a serious film before. And so we watch it in the Cask and Cross in the basement on a big screen, nice speakers. And then after the film's done, then I say, all right, take a bathroom break and come back. And then for the next 30 or 45 minutes, we sit there and theologically reflect on what we saw. Like, what character did you like? Which one didn't you like? What kind of change did you see in these characters? Where did you see light? And where did you see darkness? Where did you see sin? Where did you see redemption? And they start to talk. And by the end of that, they are so excited because they saw something on the screen and they didn't just say, okay, I'm done with that. But they actually took time to think about how that art affected their life and life communally, because we don't live life in isolation. And that becomes one of the favorite things, and one of the great takeaways from that week is they learned how to watch a film as a Catholic young adult and find meaning in it, you know.
Yeah. I had a similar, personal experience over the summer. I went and took a class at the TOB Institute, and we watched Les Miserables, which came out, I think, I don't know.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I knew it was a big thing, but I never watched it. I just didn't think I would have any interest in it. It was so good. If I was not encouraged to watch it, I would have never watched it. But to watch it with that lens and see the suffering and the redemption and just the theological things that are in there was profoundly moving. And I think it's everything that Pope Leo is asking to bring back, resurrect in filmmaking.
Yes. And he says that it's in danger of losing it. He said even the cinemas, nonetheless, cinemas are experiencing a troubling decline, as we said, with many being removed from cities and neighborhoods. More than a few people are saying that the art of cinema and the cinematic experience are in danger. I urge institutions not to give up, but to cooperate in affirming the social and cultural value of this activity. So he's calling us, he was addressing many of the filmmakers there, but this is a public document. So anything we can do in our power to make sure people can still go to the movies.
Yeah. There's, I just thought of this about the communal nature that you're talking about. Every time we do go to a movie, my son at the end will stand and clap.
That's funny.
And we just think that it's funny, but I also think that's something about like his experience of being with other people, watching a movie that hopefully edifies him in some way or he learns something from, but that he's prompted to share his gratitude for it by clapping.
Yeah. And that often happens at a premiere.
Yeah.
But there were a few films that came out in the last, 15 or 20 years where people did clap at the end, but I don't see it too much. But I'm imagining, because your son's, 15?
Yeah.
Just to stand, that would be great to see. Just stand up and clap. So,
yeah.
Well, I did text you last night and said, hey, let's talk about our 3 favorite films and maybe a little bit about why you have your top 3. And then I have a bonus question, which will be, since we're close to Christmas, what's your favorite Christmas film? But first, let's do our top 3 films of all time.
All time has got number 1 is Rocky.
Why?
Oh, because it's the underdog, and I love sports. I love athletics, and like I in my social media, I still get all these Rocky reels and stuff, and just Sylvester Stallone explaining it. He talks about how inspired by Christ he was in making that movie. Like the first Rocky 1, he starts with an image of Christ over the boxing ring, and now years later, I'm learning like how much God influenced him in that movie, and that it's such a self-reflection of his life too.
In the last couple of years, I've been seeing interviews with people, maybe it was one of the directors who was inspired by some classical piece, and then it was
the composer. I'm gonna forget his name now, but yeah, he's talking about the fight scene, and he's like, I'm inspired because at this point I'm imagining the holy sacrifice of the mass, and he's like, you don't need to know that, but that's what I'm thinking about when I compose the music.
It's very cool.
Yeah, so that's Rocky is number 1, not Rocky 5, but all the rest.
Okay.
Second would be Chariots of Fire.
Ah, these are all like sport movies.
Yeah.
Well, the first 2 are.
And then my third is Runaway Bride.
Wait, why Chariots of Fire?
Because, I do like stories based on real life. And so this is about the Olympics and a runner. And basically he refuses to run in the Olympics on a Sunday because it's the Sabbath. But he also talks about that God has given him a gift, and he has to use that gift to glorify him.
Oh, very cool.
Which, as a parent, is what I'm trying to teach my children very much. So we watch it a lot to also educate and inform my children.
And you work for TOBCLE, so a huge theme in theology of the body is a gift received is then a gift given. We're gifts. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And then my third is Runaway Bride.
Is that Steve Martin?
It's...
I don't know if I know that one.
Julia Roberts.
Okay.
And Richard Gere, I think, is her counterpart in it. But it's about a woman who has left the altar, run away at the altar 3 times. But it's because she always tried to imitate or become who she thought her partner wanted her to be.
Oh.
So she almost tries to take on the identity of the guy that she's with.
Oh.
And it's not until she's forced to truly discover herself that she can enter into a relationship with another person.
Nice. Well, my top 3 all came out in the mid-90s, which is interesting. And I don't think that has to do with why they're my top 3. I think they're 3 good films. One is Braveheart. And that movie, I saw it in the theater the first time, and I didn't understand the very last scene, what was happening to William Wallace. But I was so taken by the courage that was on display in there, the acting. I mean, all the battle scenes, the fight for good and virtue. And I was even watching some interviews. One of my favorite bands now is Wet Leg, and they love Braveheart. And so I'm always thinking when I'm watching interviews or studying bands, like what would my inroad be if we talked to them? So that would be it with them. The second one would be Fargo, which is Coen Brothers film. I love the Coen Brothers. I think they're hilarious. This one came out in 96. And Bishop Barron does a really nice review or analysis of that film. The center of the film is a pregnant sheriff named Marge, and her husband is Norm. And basically what she does is she goes out to the margins to try to bring people back in. She's like a Christ figure, bring them back to the norm. And but it's zany, it's rated R. There's some cussing in there and some other inappropriate activity, but the film itself is pretty good. It's for mature audiences, but I think it's great. And Coen Brothers are a lot like Flannery O'Connor. And my fourth one, it also came out in 94. And now I can't think of it. And I had, it's Shawshank Redemption. I already mentioned it once.
Yeah.
So that's a great story about Andy Dufresne, who's put in prison. Spoiler alert, he didn't do the crime, but when he goes to prison, he makes everybody around him better. And he's probably the best Christ figure I've ever seen in a film. And we'll just leave it at that. But you ought to watch that if you haven't seen it. It's 3 hours long, but it's so worthy. And for a lot of these teens that do Tully Legge, they've never spent 3 hours watching a film.
Yeah.
And at the end, they're like, that was awesome.
Yeah. Those are all movies I need to watch that I've never.
All right. I'll watch Runaway Bride and you watch those 3.
All right. Deal.
All right. Bonus. Christmas. Your favorite Christmas movie.
All right. So.
And why?
There's 2 that we watch every year. So the first is It's a Wonderful Life, which we usually watch on Christmas Eve. And then, Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh,
the
both
1990.
classics.
No, it's the 1994 version.
Oh, I've never seen it.
But that one I really like.
And Christmas, do you do Christmas Eve Mass or do you do Christmas Day Mass or what's your routine?
Well, we've started going to midnight Mass.
Okay.
So we'll actually watch before we go to Mass. It's our way of keeping ourselves up.
I see.
Because normally I go to bed at like 9:30.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, my favorite Christmas movie, I'm a homer, is Christmas Story because it was filmed in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
It is.
When I was the culture capo in Rome, I showed that, and a lot of the guys hadn't seen it, and they liked it a lot. I love the narrator. Yeah. I love how he tells the story and what things were like back in the day. And what is the name of the little brother?
Ralphie.
No, it's Ralphie and something. Randy reminds me of me, that my dad often was like, what is he doing? And my mom would cover for me. Like I was sitting, he's hiding under the sink just eating. She'd be like, just let him be.
My favorite is like, I can't put my arms down.
Oh, speaking of which, that's why I brought this. Because we're doing film. I bought this in Trastevere in Rome, my first year there, because the Romans, if it gets under 55 degrees, they're all wearing scarves. So I thought this looked like a director's scarf, So, and then I thought, Ralphie and Randy, his mom would wrap him up and all that. So, yeah. Anyway, filmmaking, cinema, movies, we need good Catholics who are involved in filmmaking. I have 3 that I could think off the top of my head. I was at a conference in South Bend recently at Notre Dame, and a young man came up to me and said, Father, I'm a filmmaker. And I said, oh, wow, got to be reading what the Holy Father just wrote to you. So it's exciting stuff. All right. Well, I think this is our last episode before the new year. Is that correct?
I think so.
So Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And hopefully we'll see you in 2026. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and also let us know if there are some themes that you would like us to discuss here and pour over.